The encrypted message appears on Ross Ulbricht's screen at 2:13 a.m., August 15th, 2013. "I have inside information on the federal investigation targeting you," writes someone using the username French Maid on Silk Road. "For $100,000 in Bitcoin, I'll tell you everything the DEA knows about your operation." Ross, operating as Dread Pirate Roberts, has absolutely no idea French Maid is actually DEA agent Carl Force. The same Carl Force who operates the sanctioned undercover persona called Knob to investigate Ross during official working hours. 630 miles away in Baltimore, Maryland, Force sits at two separate computers running both identities simultaneously. On one screen, he messages Ross as Knob, the trusted drug dealer persona approved by his supervisors. On the other screen, he extorts Ross as French Maid, a completely unauthorized identity created for personal profit. How does a 15-year DEA veteran with commendations and awards transform into an extortionist stealing from criminals he investigates? Why would Secret Service agent Shaun Bridges steal $820,000 in Bitcoin from Silk Road evidence? What happens when the hunters become thieves? When federal badges become licenses to steal digital currency invisibly? 3 years earlier, in February 2012 in Baltimore, Maryland, a completely different Carl Force existed then. Carl Mark Force IV was 43 years old, a DEA special agent with 15 years investigating narcotics trafficking. He had conducted numerous undercover operations, kicked down doors during high-risk raids, testified in dozens of federal prosecutions. Born and raised in Baltimore, Carl had joined the DEA in 1997, seeking adventure and meaning. For years, he excelled at undercover work, developing informants, building complex cases, earning respect from colleagues and supervisors. But 2 years before Silk Road, Carl suffered a severe mental breakdown requiring extended medical leave from duty. The stress of deep undercover work had accumulated over years. Constant lies, perpetual danger, moral compromises inherent in infiltration. He spent months in therapy, was medicated for depression and anxiety, questioned whether he could return to fieldwork. By 2011, Carl was relegated to desk assignments, reviewing case files, processing endless paperwork, watching younger agents. To receive the high-profile assignments he once dominated with skill, determination, and recognition that supervisors had previously praised publicly. At 43, Carl felt his career stagnating irreversibly, his relevance fading permanently, his identity as elite agent slipping away. His marriage was struggling under relentless financial pressure from medical bills, college tuition, mounting mortgage payments on their home. Carl had always lived modestly, on his DEA salary of approximately $90,000 annually before taxes. But he noticed former colleagues in private sector making twice or three times his salary for cybersecurity consulting work. The comparison gnawed at him constantly, risking his life for government salary while others profited enormously from knowledge. Carl's father had recently died, leaving him feeling unmoored, questioning life choices that led to financial stress and instability. And then, everything changed when the call came in February 2012. Join the Baltimore Silk Road Task Force. The Baltimore Silk Road Task Force formed in early 2012 to investigate the dark web marketplace facilitating drug sales. Silk Road had launched in February 2011, operating on the Tor network, providing complete anonymity to its users. It functioned as the Amazon of drugs, allowing buyers worldwide to purchase cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, LSD, using Bitcoin. By 2012, Silk Road had facilitated over $214 million in illegal drug sales to users globally. The site's mysterious operator, calling himself Dread Pirate Roberts or DPR, remained completely anonymous despite FBI's extensive efforts. Carl Force was assigned as lead undercover agent, specifically tasked with establishing direct contact with Dread Pirate Roberts. Shaun Bridges, 32, joined as the Secret Service's senior computer forensics expert and Bitcoin specialist on the team. Bridges had worked for both Secret Service and NSA simultaneously, possessing deep technical knowledge of cryptocurrency and blockchain. Carl created his undercover persona called Knob, posing as a Dominican Republic drug smuggler interested in buying Silk Road. In April 2012, Carl sent Ross his first message as Nob, with calculated flattery and a serious business proposition. "Mr. Silk Road, I am a great admirer of your work. Brilliant, utterly brilliant," Carl wrote from his desk. I will keep this short and to the point right now. I want to buy the site completely. I've been in the business for over 20 years successfully, Carl lied, building his fictional criminal credibility patiently and carefully. Ross Ulbricht, 28 years old and operating as Dread Pirate Roberts, responded with cautious interest to Nobe's unexpected offer. Over months, Carl and Ross developed a relationship through encrypted messages, building trust slowly, carefully, and methodically with each interaction. But behind the scenes, far from supervisor oversight, Carl Force was beginning to see opportunities nobody authorized or anticipated. A typical undercover investigation involves strict protocols designed specifically to prevent agent corruption and maintain evidence integrity comprehensively. Agents create personas only with explicit supervisor approval, documenting every single interaction, turning over all payments as evidence immediately. Financial transactions with targets must be reported in real time, with Bitcoin transferred to secure government wallets within hours. Any deviation from established protocol requires written authorization from multiple supervisors and documented justification in official reports. Carl Force followed these protocols initially, reporting Nobe's conversations faithfully, documenting Ross's responses accurately, maintaining proper case files meticulously. But by summer 2013, Carl realized something crucial. Bitcoin transactions were extraordinarily difficult to trace precisely and quickly. He could receive Bitcoin from Ross, claim different amounts in official reports, divert excess to personal wallets completely invisibly. The blockchain was theoretically public, but connecting wallet addresses to real identities required sophisticated analysis taking months or years. Carl began testing small diversions experimentally, claiming Ross sent 5,000, when actually 10,000 arrived in Bitcoin payments. The excess Bitcoin went directly to personal wallets at cryptocurrency exchanges Carl controlled under false identities created secretly. Nobody noticed the discrepancies initially because Bitcoin's value fluctuated wildly, making exact amounts difficult to verify quickly or accurately. In August 2013, Carl created an entirely unauthorized persona called French Maid, completely unknown to task force colleagues. As French Maid, Carl contacted Ross directly, offering to sell inside information about the federal investigation targeting Silk Road. I work for the government and have access to confidential details about the DEA's entire operation against you. Carl lied outrageously. Carl was essentially extorting the exact same man he was officially investigating under his real name and badge authority, Ross. Increasingly paranoid about law enforcement, after nearly 2 years of successfully evading detection worldwide, paid French Maid immediately. Carl received approximately $100,000 in Bitcoin for information he completely invented, fabricated, or wildly exaggerated shamelessly. He directed Ross to use encrypted messaging to discuss all payments, deliberately hiding evidence from his supervisors and colleagues. Carl deposited the Bitcoin into personal accounts rather than turning it over as evidence as legally required under federal law. He falsified official reports, claiming smaller Bitcoin amounts from Ross, pocketing the difference into accounts he controlled exclusively and secretly. Meanwhile, Shaun Bridges was simultaneously running his own criminal schemes using his computer forensics expertise and technical access to systems. In January 2013, Bridges arrested Curtis Green, a Silk Road administrator using the alias Chronic Pain in Spanish Fork, Utah. Bridges confiscated Green's computer as evidence, analyzing it thoroughly to extract login credentials and administrative access to Silk Road's backend. Instead of documenting this access properly and officially, Bridges used Green's credentials to secretly log into Silk Road's administrative systems. He transferred $350,000 in Bitcoin from Silk Road vendor accounts to personal wallets he controlled exclusively. Bridges then contacted Ross anonymously, claiming Chronic Pain had stolen funds and suggesting Chronic Pain should be permanently dealt with or fixed. Ross, believing Chronic Pain had betrayed and stolen from him, hired Carl Force as Nob to kill Chronic Pain for $80,000. Carl staged an elaborate fake execution with federal agents. Green was waterboarded with water while drooling Campbell's soup simulating vomit. Green's wife photographed the gruesome scene on command. Carl sent the disturbing pictures to Ross as proof of completed execution. Ross believed completely he had commissioned an actual murder successfully. Carl collected $80,000 for a completely fabricated assassination. Force instructed Green to stay hidden in his home for nearly a year, crawling on his knees to avoid windows. "I was supposed to be dead," Green later recalled about that terrifying year living in hiding from someone who wanted him. Murdered permanently and completely unaware the entire murder was fake theater staged by federal agents for multiple conflicting purposes simultaneously. Bridges continued systematically stealing from Silk Road, locking dealers out of accounts and draining their Bitcoin worth $820,000 total across multiple thefts he conducted while simultaneously serving as the investigation's senior forensics expert and technical specialist. He placed the stolen Bitcoin into accounts at Mt. Gox, the now defunct Japanese cryptocurrency exchange handling millions in transactions. 2 days before seeking a government seizure warrant for Mt. Gox's accounts, Bridges quietly wired $250,000 from Mt. Gox into his personal investment accounts in the United States without disclosing the source or reporting it officially. When the FBI later sought that same Mt. Gox warrant officially, Bridges signed it personally as the investigating agent, with complete authority and credibility, despite having just stolen and laundered money from the exact same accounts days earlier successfully. Force also admitted working as chief compliance officer for CoinMKT, a digital currency exchange, without DEA permission or authorization. In February 2014, Force used his DEA authority to freeze $337,000 from a CoinMKT account. He then transferred $300,000 of that digital currency into a personal account he controlled without legal authority. But the victims of Force and Bridges weren't just Ross Ulbricht or Silk Road. Real innocent people suffered from the corrupted investigation. Jennifer Martinez was 37 years old, a federal prosecutor in San Francisco handling financial crimes and public corruption cases. She had worked for 12 years building her reputation on absolute integrity and meticulous attention to evidence chain of custody procedures. She had 2 children, ages 8 and 6, a mortgage payment, student loans, and profound belief in the justice system. In March 2015, Jennifer's supervisor assigned her to review potential misconduct allegations against 2 Silk Road Task Force agents. IRS Special Agent Tigran Gambarayan had been investigating suspicious Bitcoin transactions linked to Force and Bridges for 18 months patiently. Jennifer spent weeks reviewing detailed blockchain analysis, financial records, encrypted messages recovered from seized servers and seized digital devices. She discovered the scope was absolutely breathtaking. Multiple fraudulent personas, stolen Bitcoin, falsified reports, systematic obstruction of justice, extortion. Jennifer felt physically ill reading Force's encrypted messages as both Knob and French Maid to the exact same target. She saw Bridges stealing from evidence while simultaneously seeking warrants to seize that same evidence for the government's prosecution. The betrayal devastated her personally and professionally. These were federal agents sworn to uphold laws they were systematically violating. Jennifer couldn't sleep for weeks, questioning every single case she had ever prosecuted. How many other agents were similarly corrupt? Her faith in the system she had devoted her entire career to serving was completely shattered by colleagues stealing millions. She began experiencing panic attacks before court appearances, questioning whether evidence was legitimate or contaminated by corrupt agents handling it. Jennifer developed insomnia, checking and rechecking evidence files obsessively, unable to trust anything agents reported without independent verification now permanently. Jennifer doesn't know Force and Bridges represent a tiny percentage of agents. One isolated case among thousands of honest investigations conducted properly and ethically by dedicated agents who would never betray their badges or steal from anyone, systematically. Meanwhile, the Internal Revenue Service was methodically closing in through sophisticated blockchain analysis, revealing every stolen Bitcoin's complete digital trail. In March 2015, federal prosecutors unsealed criminal complaints against Carl Force and Shaun Bridges simultaneously in coordinated arrests. Force was charged with money laundering, obstruction of justice, extortion under color of official right, and theft of government property. Bridges faced charges of money laundering and wire fraud for stealing $820,000 during the official investigation. The charges were deliberately sealed until after Ross Ulbricht's trial concluded to avoid potentially tainting the jury's perception of evidence. Ross's lawyers argued vigorously the corruption undermined the entire investigation's integrity, and Ross's conviction should be overturned immediately and completely. Judge Catherine Forrest ruled the agent's crimes occurred independently of the New York investigation that convicted Ross on overwhelming evidence. Force resigned from DEA in May 2014 when Internal Affairs began investigating his suspicious financial discrepancies and unexplained wealth. Bridges resigned from Secret Service in August 2014 as blockchain analysis definitively connected stolen Bitcoin to his personal wallets. On July 1st, 2015, Carl Force pleaded guilty to extortion, money laundering, and obstruction of justice in federal court. On August 31st, 2015, Shaun Bridges pleaded guilty to money laundering and obstruction of justice charges in court. At Force's sentencing hearing in October 2015, Judge Richard Seaborg called his betrayal of public trust absolutely breathtaking in scope. While investigating the Silk Road, former DEA agent Carl Force crossed the line from enforcing law to breaking it systematically, prosecutors stated publicly, emphasizing Force had used his position of authority to weave complex deception for personal profit over months. Force apologized emotionally to the American people and his family. "I'm sorry, I lost it, and don't really understand it." He blamed mental health issues and the stressful work environment, seeking leniency for psychological problems he experienced during the crimes. Defense attorneys cited Force's father's death, financial stress, and work environment as mitigating factors deserving consideration and mercy from court. Judge Seaborg rejected the mitigation arguments completely, stating Force's crimes were too calculated, too extensive, too deliberate for excuses to matter. The extent and scope of Mr. Force's betrayal of the public trust is quite breathtaking, Judge Seaborg declared from bench. He called Force's actions an extended, complex, one might even say, devious and clever scheme that couldn't be blamed on stress. "You can't blame that on, 'I lost my father,' or 'I had a lot of stress,'" Seaborg stated firmly and directly. Judge Seaborg sentenced Force to 78 months in federal prison and ordered $340,000 in restitution payments. Bridges received 71 months initially, to be served at federal facility while awaiting additional prosecution for new crimes discovered. After his guilty plea, when investigators found more stolen Bitcoin hidden in encrypted wallets, he controlled secretly and refused to disclose. But the story didn't end there at all. Bridges couldn't stop stealing, even facing imminent imprisonment for identical crimes. Before reporting to prison in December 2015, Bridges stole 1,600 Bitcoin from a government wallet using a private key. He used a private key to access digital currency the government had seized, transferring it to exchanges worldwide through Complex. Laundering schemes designed to hide the theft from investigators, who would eventually discover it anyway through blockchain analysis techniques, improving constantly. Authorities arrested him at the airport attempting to flee the country before his scheduled prison surrender date he was supposed to report. Bridges pleaded guilty again in separate proceedings, receiving an additional 24 months consecutive to his 71-month sentence already imposed. In 2021, investigators discovered Bridges was actually Individual X, who had stolen 69,000 Bitcoin from Ross Ulbricht. That massive theft, worth approximately $3 billion at 2021 Bitcoin prices, made Bridges history's most prolific cryptocurrency thief. The government seized the Bitcoin in November 2020 after Bridges finally turned over the private key in exchange for additional leniency considerations that prosecutors agreed to provide in exchange for recovering the billions in stolen digital currency finally. In a maximum security federal prison cell in Nashville, Tennessee, Shaun Bridges reads news coverage of Individual X Bitcoin seizure stories. He knows prosecutors identified him definitively through blockchain analysis and circumstantial timing evidence, connecting transactions to his known activity. He serves his extended sentence knowing the Bitcoin he stole appreciated exponentially while he sat imprisoned for years and years. Mental health professionals evaluate him repeatedly, finding him competent, calculating, and fully aware of crimes he committed for personal enrichment. At that exact moment in San Francisco, California, IRS agents are tracing more Silk Road Bitcoin through sophisticated blockchain analysis, continuously and relentlessly, pursuing every lead, every transaction, every wallet connected to the massive criminal enterprise that collapsed spectacularly. The same advanced techniques that caught Force and Bridges now pursue other potentially corrupt agents who thought cryptocurrency provided complete anonymity and safety from detection, unaware that blockchain technology creates permanent, immutable records of every single transaction forever. In Baltimore, Maryland, the DEA trains new agents on ethics, showing Force's case as cautionary tale of corruption's inevitable consequences. New protocols require dual authorization for undercover Bitcoin transactions, independent audits of cryptocurrency evidence, and mandatory reporting of everything immediately. Supervisors now conduct random blockchain analysis of agent wallets, comparing official reports to actual transactions recorded permanently on blockchain. The reforms came too late for Ross Ulbricht, but prevent future agents from exploiting the same vulnerabilities Force discovered. And Bridges exploited successfully for months before investigators noticed discrepancies between reported amounts and actual blockchain transaction records finally. Meanwhile, in Florence, Colorado, at ADX Supermax prison, Ross Ulbricht serves life without parole for creating and operating Silk Road. His appeals, citing Force and Bridges' crimes, were rejected repeatedly. Courts ruled their theft occurred independently of evidence convicting him. Ross was pardoned by President Donald Trump on January 21, 2025, after serving nearly 12 years in prison. Trump called the original sentence excessive and referenced the scum who convicted Ross as being involved in prosecuting him too. Carl Force was released from prison in October 2020 after serving 5.5 years of his 78-month sentence. Bridges was released in October 2021 after serving 6 years total. Both men destroyed professionally and financially forever permanently. Jennifer Martinez continues prosecuting federal cases in San Francisco, her faith partially restored by seeing corruption punished appropriately and thoroughly. But she checks Bitcoin addresses obsessively now, trusting blockchain analysis more than agent reports in every single investigation she handles. She requires independent verification of all cryptocurrency evidence, never accepting agent testimony alone without corroborating technical evidence from blockchain. Curtis Green lives quietly in Utah, having received time served for his minor role as Silk Road administrator and unwitting participant in an elaborate fake murder scheme orchestrated by corrupt agents who used him as a pawn in their complex criminal enterprise. Green wrote a book called Silk Road Takedown, detailing his terrifying experience being fake murdered and forced to hide for a year, while federal agents pursued Ross Ulbricht using photographs of Green's staged torture and execution as evidence of murder-for-hire charges. The door clanks shut on an empty federal prison cell, but somewhere online, cryptocurrency flows through wallets tempting other agents. With the false promise of anonymity and untraceable wealth, unaware that blockchain technology makes every crime permanent and discoverable eventually.